There is a particular kind of trap built into the American city. It has gleaming downtown corridors, new mixed-use construction on every corner, a food hall that opened 2 years ago and got written up in every major lifestyle publication, median household income numbers that look, on paper, like prosperity. And then someone moves there. They sign a lease, or close on a house. And within 18 months, something shifts. A creeping awareness that the numbers they were shown, the skyline they were sold, the energy they felt on a weekend visit, none of it maps onto the reality of actually living there. This is not about dangerous cities, it's not about obvious decline. Those stories are easy to tell. This is about something harder to see, cities that have mastered the performance of success while quietly offloading the cost of that performance onto the people who call them home. 10 cities. Real data. And by the end of this, you will never look at a city's marketing materials the same way again. Between 2020 and 2024, more Americans relocated than at any point since the post-WWOO migration era. Remote work dissolved the old logic of live where the job is. That freedom for millions of people translated into a very specific kind of research: median home prices, crime statistics, walkability scores, weather data, and a few YouTube videos of the downtown area. What that research almost never captures is what economists call the friction cost, the invisible tax of a city that doesn't function well for the people inside it, infrastructure that hasn't kept pace with population, property tax structures designed to favor long-term owners at the expense of newcomers, job markets that look diverse but concentrate wealth in a narrow band of industries. The 10 cities on this list were not chosen because they are failing. They were chosen because they are convincing. And convincing in this context is the more dangerous thing. Austin, Texas. Austin is perhaps the defining case study of the phenomenon. From 2018 to 2023, Austin added more than 200,000 residents and saw its median home price more than double, from roughly $300,000 to over $650,000. Tech companies arrived. The skyline changed dramatically. National publications called it the next great American city. What those publications did not dwell on: Texas has no state income tax, which sounds like an advantage until you examine what funds city services in its absence. Property taxes in Austin run among the highest effective rates in the country, between 2.1% and 2.5% annually on assessed value. On a $650,000 home, that is $13,000 to $16,000 per year in property taxes alone, before insurance, before maintenance, before the mortgage. The infrastructure did not scale with the population. Traffic congestion on I-35 is now ranked among the worst corridors in the nation. The 2021 winter storm, which left hundreds of thousands without power for days in freezing temperatures, exposed a grid that had been run on a financial model prioritizing low cost over resilience. And the culture that people moved to Austin for, the music, the weird, the affordability, has been largely priced out of the city it made famous. Miami, Florida. Miami presents a striking visual argument for itself. The architecture is extraordinary. The energy is real. The international character of the city is genuine. But here is what the brochure does not lead with. Miami-Dade County has the highest cost of living adjusted poverty rate of any major metro in the United States. The median household income, adjusted for local costs, leaves a significant portion of the working population functionally unable to afford the city they maintain. Meanwhile, sea level rise is not a future problem in Miami. It is a present one. The city already experiences routine, sunny day flooding in low-lying neighborhoods. Insurance carriers have been exiting the Florida market at an accelerating rate. Several major national insurers have ceased writing new homeowner policies in the state entirely. For those who remain, premiums have increased by 30% to 50% in a single renewal cycle in some areas. Buyers who closed on Miami condos in 2021 are now discovering that their monthly HOA fees, which in some buildings include structural reserve requirements mandated by new legislation passed after the Surfside collapse, have doubled or tripled. Nashville, Tennessee. Nashville's economy is genuinely diverse and its growth is real. But the growth has created a specific imbalance that visitors rarely encounter. The tourism economy, which now represents billions of dollars annually, has effectively colonized the urban core. What was once a neighborhood fabric of restaurants, music venues, and small businesses is now, in large swaths of downtown and midtown, oriented entirely around bachelorette parties and honky-tonk tourism. Residents describe the experience of their city being consumed from the inside. The housing market absorbed the attention of investors at a ratio that consistently outpaced owner-occupant buyers during the peak years. Institutional ownership of single-family homes in certain Nashville zip codes reached levels that fundamentally altered the nature of those neighborhoods. Phoenix, Arizona. The number that matters most in Phoenix is not on any real estate listing, 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Phoenix has now exceeded 100 days per year above 100 degrees in recent summers. Maricopa County recorded its highest number of heat-related deaths in history in 2023. The outdoor lifestyle that fills the tourism photography, hiking, cycling, evening patios is available for perhaps 6 months of the year, and increasingly compressed into narrower windows as summers lengthen. The water situation is no longer theoretical. Lake Mead has reached historically low levels. Arizona has already accepted cuts to its Colorado River allocation, and further reductions are projected. The state has been acquiring water rights from other regions, but the long-term arithmetic of a desert city of 5 million people in a warming climate requires scrutiny that a weekend visit will not provide. Denver, Colorado. Denver occupies a specific psychological niche in relocation research. It looks like the reasonable middle option. Not as expensive as San Francisco, not as hot as Phoenix. Mountains, legal cannabis, young demographic. What the data reveals is that Denver's housing affordability has deteriorated nearly as severely as coastal markets, without the coastal income levels to match. The median home price in the Denver metro crossed $550,000. The tech migration that was supposed to raise local wages did raise wages for the tech workers who came. For nurses, teachers, service workers, and municipal employees, compensation largely did not follow. Denver also carries an air quality problem that its marketing does not advertise. Brown cloud days, when front-range pollution and wildfire smoke combine in the bowl created by the Rockies, have become more frequent. The city regularly records air quality index readings that qualify as unhealthy for sensitive groups, and occasionally for the general population. Charlotte, North Carolina. Charlotte passes every visual inspection: clean streets, new construction, a functional airport, a banking sector that creates anchor employment. It regularly appears on best cities for young professionals lists. The issue is what those lists measure. Charlotte has among the lowest rates of economic mobility of any major American city, meaning children born in the bottom income quintile in Charlotte are statistically among the least likely in the country to rise out of it. The city is deeply bifurcated, a prosperous corridor and a struggling geography that the prosperity has not reached. Infrastructure investment has followed the prosperous corridor. Tampa, Florida. Tampa shares Miami's insurance crisis without Miami's international allure to partially offset it. The city sits in one of the highest hurricane risk corridors on the Gulf Coast, a fact that was somewhat abstract until Hurricanes Ian and Helene provided visceral recent updates. Following those storms, flood insurance availability in parts of the Tampa Bay area contracted significantly. FEMA's updated flood maps expanded the zones requiring mandatory coverage. The compounding cost, mortgage, elevated property taxes, homeowners insurance, flood insurance, has pushed the monthly carrying cost of median-priced Tampa homes well above what the local median income supports. Salt Lake City, Utah. Salt Lake City's growth story is compelling. A genuine technology sector, outdoor access, a younger-than-average population, and a cost structure that was, until recently, favorable compared to West Coast alternatives. The air quality issue here is not occasional, it is structural. The Salt Lake Valley is a geographic bowl surrounded by mountains. Winter inversions trap vehicle emissions and industrial pollution at ground level for weeks at a time. During inversion season, the valley records some of the worst particulate air quality of any major American city. families with children or respiratory conditions who discover this reality after moving report it as a significant and unexpected quality of life degradation. The Great Salt Lake is also disappearing at a documented and alarming rate, exposing a lakebed that carries arsenic and other toxic compounds in its dust that blows directly into the metro area. Raleigh, North Carolina Raleigh's Research Triangle economy is real, its educated workforce is real, and its growth has been well managed relative to many peers. But it appears on this list for a specific reason: the expectation gap. Raleigh is heavily marketed as an affordable alternative to northern metros. The housing prices, while rising, do reflect relative value. What the marketing understates is the income ceiling. Outside the university and pharmaceutical corridor, the Raleigh job market offers fewer high-compensation positions than the relocation pitch implies. Newcomers from high-earning coastal markets frequently find that the lower home price requires a lower income to match, and that lower income is not optional. Las Vegas, Nevada. Las Vegas has remade its self-presentation around the idea that it is now a real city, not just a tourist destination, professional sports franchises, a medical district, suburban development that now extends for miles in every direction. The fundamental tension has not been resolved. The city's tax base remains structurally dependent on tourism and gaming revenue, creating volatility that was starkly visible during the 2020 shutdown. When the Strip stops generating revenue, the fiscal implications ripple quickly into municipal services. The economy that supports the city's residents and the economy that funds the city's infrastructure are not the same economy, and they can diverge at speed. Water. Again, Las Vegas draws from Lake Mead. The city has been more aggressive than most in conservation efforts, but it is still a major population center in the driest part of North America, and the trend line does not favor complacency. The cities on this list are not static cases. Several of them will look different, better or worse, within the next 5 to 10 years, and the mechanisms that will determine which direction they go are largely invisible in current listing prices. Insurance withdrawal from climate-exposed markets is not a temporary dislocation. It is a structural repricing of risk that has been subsidized, deferred, or ignored for decades. When that repricing arrives at the individual homeowner level, as it already has in Florida and is beginning to in the Gulf Coast, the desert Southwest, and fire-exposed western metros, it does not arrive gradually. It arrives at renewal. Property tax resets, infrastructure debt, water rights litigation, and climate-driven insurance costs represents a class of delayed liabilities that will be distributed unevenly. They will fall most heavily on people who bought recently at peak prices, in cities that were convincing precisely because the bill had not yet come due. None of this means these cities are without value. Some of them, for specific circumstances and specific people, remain rational choices. The point is not to condemn, it is to insist on clarity. The American city has always sold itself. That is part of what cities do. The new marketing apparatus, social media, relocation influencers, lifestyle content, city-commissioned ranking reports, has made that sales process extraordinarily effective and extraordinarily incomplete. What it rarely includes is the actuarial view, the utility bill in August, the insurance renewal letter, the property tax statement, the commute at 7:45 on a Tuesday, the school that serves the zip code you can actually afford. A city that looks successful from the outside and costs success from the inside is not a city that has succeeded. It is a city that has learned to defer the reckoning, and to do so on your dime. Visit longer. Rent before you buy. Read the municipal budget. Talk to people who have been there 5 years, not 2. The skyline will still be there when you get back.